I'm sorry to report, John and Susan, there has been no let-up in the violence. Overtown is literally on fire tonight. From another camera angle now, we will show you a fire that just started, we think, in a warehouse just north of here a short time ago, just a few minutes. As you can see, it is fully engulfed. Huge black plumes of smoke are rising into the air. It's just one of many fires that have been started in Overtown this evening. Now, this all started around 6 o'clock tonight. According to police reports, officers were chasing two possible robbery suspects through Overtown. The suspects were on a motorcycle. At some point, the police started shooting at those suspects, and the motorcycle crashed. Within minutes of the wreck, police were under attack. Targets crouched around the body of one suspect with guns drawn, dodging bottles and rocks. Getting emergency medical help to the injured suspects was difficult at best. About 100 police reinforcements were called in, but it did no good. The crowd had only grown in size and anger. As you can see, people were running everywhere, bottles exploding on all sides. Police were forced to retreat behind cars, running for safety.
January '89, city of Miami. Cops working a difficult section of that sprawling metropolis where crime was rampant, communities decaying, drugs were as much the order of the day as breathing air. I lived in South Florida at that time, member of the news media charged with reporting the facts. It made no difference the color of the skin of those of us who covered the news. We all knew the area. We all knew this was going to happen. And when it happened, there were those in the public eye who, of course, pointed the immediate finger at cops being the ones who lit the fire. But those of us who knew those streets, whether in the press or just having grown up there, we knew the truth. The community of Overtown was a nightmare where not even those armed to the teeth dared to tread in daylight, much less after hours. Weapons carried by moms and school kids, narcotics easily found on the street, and almost no one was doing anything to improve the living conditions, care for a community, make it a safe place to live, work, go to school. Certainly there were church groups and community leaders who tried, but they were always too few and too unorganized. And far too often those with the loudest voice fell back on blaming everyone for their ills, save for those who were mostly responsible, those who lived there and decided that if the government wasn't going to do something about it, then they would just as soon treat their home as a slice of hell instead of seeking to rise from the ashes. 26 years later, Overtown has its bright spots, but not many. It's still a place where most people of every color will avoid at all costs. And a drive through some of those streets would make one believe time travel works, for so little's been done by those who live there to improve the quality of life. Let's not be naive. Dilapidated housing, filthy parks and streets where hookers and drug dealers make a nightly circus didn't sprout overnight. They remain partially a result of a crooked government, something Miami has no exclusivity on, but certainly hands out lessons to cities everywhere in how to cheat and steal from the population. And there's a good deal of racism that still plies those streets. But the lessons of places like Overtown remain unheeded, ignored, and a part of the problem that no one wants to admit still exists. A major city where people struggle every day to make ends meet, just like 1,000 other cities and towns across America. But the difference here is places like Baltimore, chock full of opportunists and apologists, those who always demand others make it right, yet they do little or nothing of consequence to improve their community. The ones who quickly turn felon in the blink of an eye because they can get back at the man and destroy what he stands for. Of course, at the same time, obliterating their own homes and in the process, then blaming cops, politicians, the media, whomever's convenient. Most people in America are sick, tired, and exasperated hearing apologists and the like seeking to blame the militarization of American law enforcement, a status that was deemed necessary thanks to a faction of society that will rape, torture, butcher, and shoot with no thought of life, who seek to excuse the actions of verminous criminals of all ages and colors because they're downtrodden and can't get a break, and who make everything about race when the reasons for unrest are so much easier to uncover if one just opens their eyes. Sadly, though, eyes that only see skin color and over the decades finds falling back on a racial blame game is the way to make America whole. It's a fool's game, one we have to stop playing now, or we may as well stock up on rocks and body bags in other major American cities. This may well be a very hot and a very long summer. We have an opportunity to change it, but we need to stop making excuses, stop making apologies, look at the reasons, solve them, and stop talking about them from every facet of life. That's my opinion, telling it like it is. Rock on, true believers. Thanks so much for joining us. We're back on the fastest 60 minutes in news talk tomorrow with more right here on The Hard Line.